Hi, my name is Dr. Patrick Garrett. As you know, I practice functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, clinical nutrition, and one of the reasons that we're so successful in what we do is we do food as medicine, right? We talk about a lot about food and the curative aspects of food. Now, food can be the cause of people's problems, it can be the cure of people's problems. I'm also the physician for the Clean Eating Challenge, and we get the same basic questions from them as we do from the contestants as we do our patients, and that is about meat. Should we eat meat? Should we not eat meat? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? You know, there's a lot of advice out there. There's a lot of recommendations out there, and most of it's built off complexity. And typically, if you can make things really complex, you can sell a book or sell a seminar. But the reality is, most things are simple. Curative is always based on something simple. You're designed to heal given the right opportunity. Your physiology is designed that way. Your genetics is designed that way, and so it makes food as medicine a very simple way to cure disease. So when it comes to meat, meat can be very good for you. Meat can be not so good for you, even harmful for you. Right? You can not eat meat and be a vegetarian and be absolutely healthy. There's plenty of those. You can eat meat and be super healthy, and there's plenty of those, right? So the way I look at it is I look at populations around the world that already do these things, already super healthy, have longer lifespans, better quality of life, and just say, what are those people that are successful already doing? They're not reading books, they're not buying into gimmicks. What have they been doing for generations that we could just do too, right? So that's where I get my philosophy from, simplicity. So when it comes from meat, the first thing that we want to do is really dispel one myth, right? That myth is that we are protein deficient as Americans, because that is absolutely not true. I mean, we have this idea that we're like one hamburger away from just killing over as Americans. And whether you're talking to the average person or you're talking to a top athlete, they all believe that they just have to have this insane amount of protein, and that means they have to eat meat. But if you think about it, the meat that they're concentrating on is from a vegetarian, right? So that cow that builds 1,200 pounds of muscle and has bones 3 times stronger than humans, what did it eat, right? It didn't eat a horse. It ate a cow. Now, I didn't eat a cow. Well, how did it get its meat? Oh, that's right. It ate salad all the time, right? So salad or plants and fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds and berries, they all are rich in protein. And really, some people say, well, there's not enough in, say, fruits and vegetables, but yet the average American only needs about 31 grams of protein, and if they ate a diet rich of fruits and vegetables, they would get more than they would ever need. So take this for example. A handful of beef is about 3 ounces, which is about 28 grams, which accounts for about 90% of what the average American needs for protein. 2 eggs is about 12 grams, which is about 39%, or close to half their daily protein. Now, compare that to 3 ounces or a handful of oats. 3 ounces of oats has half your daily protein in there. That's why a horse can plow a field all day long, and the reward isn't a steak. The reward for a horse is, of course, oats. Quinoa, you get 77% of your protein requirements. So 1 cup of quinoa gets you 3/4 of your daily protein just there. 1 side dish out of 1 meal gets you almost everything you need. Heck, if you just ate a snack of a handful of nuts and seeds, which is 3 ounces of nuts, 3 ounces of seeds, you get over 100% of your daily protein necessity. So everything else is just, on top. It's just gravy, right? So it is virtually impossible not to get enough protein, even if you're a bodybuilder. And so that's why when you look at, bodybuilders like Ryan Nelson, who's a vegan, I mean, this guy doesn't eat any meat, and yet he is one of the biggest bodybuilders there are. And of course, it's easy because just like the horse, it didn't eat protein, it didn't eat meat to get all those muscles. So, do we have to have meat? Absolutely not, right? So then, when it comes to reversing disease, the one thing that we got to take into account is the amount of nutrition that we're going to get. So if we want to support all those hundreds of thousands of biochemical pathways in our body that depend on vitamins, minerals, trace elements, phytosterols, phytonutrients, flavonoids. Well, that's not in meat, right? Very little of that is in meat. So the cow got that. The cow built its immune system, its hormonal system, its neurological system. It built all those systems off that nutrition, and then you eat just the meat, which is a lot of amino acids, a lot of fatty acids. And really, with amino acids, it doesn't matter. You're going to get that. So the detrimental part comes in two forms. One is the more meat that's on your plate, the less nutrition that's on your plate. So all those sides should not be sides. They shouldn't be the condiments. The meat should be the condiment. Because if your goal is to reverse that chronic or acute condition naturally, then you want to maximize nutrition. And for most people, meat as the dish, they're eating like, say 9 ounces of steak. Well, they're eating for 3, wanting to look like 1, but they're getting 2/3 less nutrition because of that. So a handful of meat a day, which you look at what the healthiest populations in the world are doing, they eat meat about 5 servings a month, non-fish meat. Now fish, wild caught, ocean caught, fatty fish, eat as much as you want. It's all curative restorative, right? That's regenerative medicine. But when it comes to land animals, we eat 8 times more red meat than we did 50 years ago. And that's because we subsidize corn. And because we subsidize corn, we can feed cows corn on these feedlots. Instead of having them run around fields and eat plants and salads all day, we just pump them full of corn. But the problem is corn is very inflammatory. So when we get those amino acids, when we get those fatty acids, we are getting chronic inflammatory disease with it. So what your meat eats becomes the most important thing. So it comes down to something just as simple as fat, right? Or fatty acids. Now in America, we think fat makes you fat, but of course that's not true. And we know this because the country that consumes the most fat is Japan, and Japan is not fat, right? Island of Crete, second population that eats the most fat, not fat. Americans, we eat lots of fat, we're fat, but it's the countries who eat the most sugar that becomes fat. And so of all the countries that eat the most sugar, yes, those are the fattest countries. Because sugar becomes fat through triglycerides. Fat, when you eat it, actually becomes 80% of your brain. It's nourishing 20% of every cell, and it's all your sex hormones like your progesterone, testosterone, anti-aging hormone, all those wonderful things that make you feel good. That becomes fat. That's derived from fat. So fat is a building block to the human body. It's not a building block to our stomach, basically, right? So is that fat inflammation? So if you eat a wild-caught animal, if you eat a wild pasture-raised animal that just eats salad all day, that's not going to be so bad. You're going to eat a lot less of it, so meat should be the flavor of your soup. It should be basically a condiment, right? It should flavor your soups, flavor your salads, flavor your sauces. Meat should stop being your meal. And it's a very hard concept to get in the beginning. But again, you can do whatever you want, but if you're talking about reversing disease, this is what I'd recommend. So the amount that you eat is going to make an importance because it's going to, especially red meat, because it's going to be a potential detriment. And so with the fat, so fat can be omega-6, a fat can be omega-3, it can be several other things, but those are main 2. And if you look at those, no matter what fat that cow eats, it's either going to be inflammatory or non-inflammatory, and it's going to go through the COX-2 enzyme, and it's going to make prostaglandins. Now, there's 2 series of prostaglandins that we're going to think about. One is for inflammatory ones, and one is less inflammatory, or what we call anti-inflammatory prostaglandins. Now, if you eat that cow that eats corn, that goat that eats corn, that pig that eats corn, then you're going to get lots of omega-6s, and it's going to make 4 things happen through those prostaglandins. The first thing is it'll increase pain and inflammation, which means more disease, more headaches, more joint pain. It'll actually increase hypertension. It'll increase arrhythmias. And there's not a cardiologist in this country that's going to say, oh, you got this weird irregular heartbeat, we can't figure it out. Maybe it's your food, right? But we know those prostaglandins cause that. The last thing, of course, is it increases platelet aggregation, and that's the worst because that's more heart attacks, more strokes. Now, conversely, if you look at fish or chia or flax or plant-based diet, well, if that cow is out there eating plants all day, eating a salad all day, well, then you get lots of omega-3s, and then it goes through that same COX-2. It builds different prostaglandins, and they do 4 things too. They knock out pain and inflammation, right? 1 can of tuna is equal to 1 aspirin, 325 milligrams, for reducing pain and inflammation. And so when you eat that cow that eats grass all day, you're actually knocking out pain and inflammation. The second thing is it actually reverses heart blood pressure problems and even normalizes the electroconnectivity of the heart, so you get rid of arrhythmias. And then the last thing, of course, is it prevents heart attack and stroke, and that's very important. And so that's why when your cardiologist looks at other countries and say, oh, you can't eat like that, you'll get a heart attack, but if you eat like American, you have a 70% higher risk of having a heart attack, right? So that fatty acid becomes important. So if you look at nature, the ratio is basically about 2-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats. So if you think about that, it's like twice as much inflammation as anti-inflammation. And it sounds bad, all right, but actually that's good. You break down and you heal, and you break down and you heal, and you get bigger, better, faster, stronger. Now, compare that to the American diet. For every anti-inflammatory fat we get, we eat 40 times the inflammatory fat. We guarantee that we're eating inflammatory fats from animals that chronically inflame us, which then guarantees that we are going to be a society of heart attacks, arrhythmias, stroke, chronic pain, chronic inflammation, and that is America, right? 1 out of 2 has a heart attack, 3 out of 4 has chronic inflammatory disease. So that's not a secret. That's just who we are. Now, fish is quite different. Fish is omega-3, right? That's really good for us. Now, the other concern that people might have is something like complete proteins. And really, again, that's just a myth. Buckwheat's a complete protein, quinoa's a complete protein, kale, chia, hemp. But you know, if you mix 2 different foods together, like rice and beans, you're going to get all your proteins like that too. That's why gorillas and chimpanzees and marsupials and elephants aren't trying to figure out how to get the right blend of protein. They just eat a lot of widely available fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, berries, legumes, and greens, and it has everything in there for you. So it's not complex. It is very, very simple. And that's why most of our patients, it only takes like maybe a month to 2 months to cure most of this long laundry list of all these chronic problems that people suffered for years, because it's just food. You have to get that nutrition, and you have to stop buying in all these gimmicks that guarantee that you're going to be, chronically sick and chasing after the next gimmick. So I wanted to take some time out to do that, to talk about the meat concept. There's also a talk you might look at online that I've done before called The Protein Myth, and there we really go through a lot of the different parameters when it comes to that, dispelling that myth of not enough protein or protein deficiency in America. So I thank you. And I hope that really helped. And for you all in the cleaning challenge, eat healthy. Remember, what you eat, if you eat something healthy, it's going to make you healthy. That's the real key. Eat real food, and lots of it, fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and the least processing available. So, all right. You'll do great, and I hope you enjoy this video, and we'll talk soon.